Thank you, everybody, for attending the L-Acoustics webinar on HYRISS. My name is Jeff Bassetti with the Home Technology Association. Nick and Darren, let's kick this off.
So I'll go first as the as the L-Acoustics representative. So my name is Nick Fichte. I'm the global business development lead for the home and yacht vertical markets at L-Acoustics. I joined L-Acoustics 5 years ago. I've always had a passion for all things technology. I started in this industry working for an integrator during my school holidays, and then realized that it was an industry that I thought was pretty cool. And here we are, 20 years later. But prior to this, I worked for Crestron as well. And so, all on the residential side of things. Have never worked in commercial AV, have never worked for, in that side of the business. So even though, yes, I do work for a manufacturer that is predominantly known for live sound and live events, my background personally is all on the residential side of things. L-Acoustics, for those that don't know, was founded over 40 years ago in 1984. We celebrated our 40-year anniversary last year. Our founder was he is still with us, of course. He was a particle physicist studying particle physics at university, but also has a passion for sound and art. And he's very key to the story about what we're going to be talking about today, HYRISS. He was the first guy to use line array technology at a live event in the early 90s and kind of pioneered the use of line array technology back in the day. So we think of ourselves as a very sound forward company. We're trying to push the boundaries of sound. And I certainly believe this solution that we're talking about today is pushing new boundaries and is very exciting. Over to you, Darren.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Darren. I'm the design director and one of the founders of a company called Luxe. We're based in the UK, and we are a design and build contractor that specialize in cinema, immersive audio environments, some recording studios, some entertainment spaces, but always rooms that require a DNA around audio. And we, myself and my business partner, started Luxe in 2018, but we've got an extensive history together as professional touring musicians. And always this is a nice link to this story, but the biggest shows that we ever did and the biggest stadiums that we always did was always with L-Acoustics as the front of house and a monitor system. That was a non-negotiable for us. It was I've kind of always had a love affair with the brand because of that history. And when we found ourselves in this world, and I'll explain a little bit more about Luxe in a moment, L-Acoustics was relatively new to the residential market, and it surprised me actually that people's awareness wasn't higher of the brand because of its heritage and reputation as delivering the world's finest live sound systems. And so it's been lovely to see that develop. And we were approached by L-Acoustics probably coming up about 18 months ago now, to assist in the delivery of the first HYRISS room, Highgate. And we worked very closely with the L-Acoustics team to make sure that the bones and the structure of that room is correct for HYRISS to shine as a solution and in that environment. So Luxe is, as I say, we're a design and build contractor. We handle all of that in-house. But we're not integrators. We don't sell AV. We don't sell speakers, projectors, control systems. We partner with good integrators so that we can develop a turnkey product for our mutual clients. So from that point of view, we're quite a strange niche company. But because of our background, interior design and audio and understanding of audio and how good rooms and good audio make you feel, make us a very good partner and contractor to the CI industry. So that's some brief history on on Cinema Luxe as an entity, and kind of a hint at the link to L-Acoustics and some of that backstory, which I'm sure we'll get into more detail as we talk about HYRISS.
That's awesome. Yeah. So L-Acoustics, from what I understand, has been putting a lot more focus on the marine and residential in the last 5 years. Can you talk about more about what that is?
It kind of was born out of our founder working on our ELISA technology, which stands for L-Acoustics Immersive Sound Art. This is a technology which is used in live events. Adele used this technology for her residency in Vegas last year. It's just one of the examples where it's happened. Janet Jackson is currently performing using this technology in Vegas at the moment as well. Artists like Bon Iver go on tour with this technology. Steven Wilson, Mark Knopfler, various other artists. And it was designed to basically allow a front of house mix engineer to be able to mix across multiple loudspeakers rather than just being two traditional hangs of PA, which is what we're used to seeing at a live event. Usually they're both in mono, and they're not actually even in stereo. So, and there's only a certain portion of the audience, of course, that can actually be in the middle and in the sweet spot. And Christian developed this technology because he wanted everyone at a live event to be able to be in the sweet spot. And it was kind of born out of, building a demonstration space to be able to show this technology, in London, which is where he kind of centered the R&D team for that technology. And he thought this was pre-Atmos music. Why wouldn't people want to experience music in an immersive format in their own homes and on their yachts and so on and so forth? So that's when I got approached by L-Acoustics, and that was just over 5 years ago. I met with Christian, spent 4 hours with him in the showroom in London. Was absolutely fascinated. I was also one of those people who, having worked in the residential world all that time, didn't know who L-Acoustics were, because unlike Darren, I'm not a touring musician, and always wanted to be, wanted to be in Queen or something when I was a kid, but unfortunately had no talent. We've grown a team. We've got a team of people in the US. I'm based in the UK, but travel globally. I was in the US last week, meeting with partners of ours at Infocom. I was in India in May, kind of spreading the word globally and internationally. We have a team of people here in Europe as well. And certainly I think the brand awareness now is really starting to pick up. We've done CEDIA Expo for the last 4 years. We did Dallas and then Denver and Denver. Every year, I think we've elevated the experience that we're giving people. Last year, we had a dedicated home theater on the show floor, which got great feedback, and we are hoping this year to do something even cooler. Hopefully. Anyway, it's still, as Joey from Mad VR reminded me this week, it's now less than 90 days away, which is slightly scary. But I am hopeful that we managed to make something pretty special there. We believe that good sound shouldn't just be reserved for live events.
So you said this all started about 5 years ago, so that does coincide with the reimagining of your London showroom, right?
So the original space was built out in 2016, I want to say, before I joined, and it was very much a show space for our pro audio customers, front of house engineers, to be showcasing them this technology for them to be able to present to their artists to take ELISA on tour, and for fixed venue installations to be using ELISA as well. And then obviously once I joined the company in 2020, I really started shaking it up, and suddenly the majority of customers coming through the door were residential systems integrators. And Christian, our founder, had this idea of a new solution that he wanted to bring to the world, which is HYRISS. And I was very aware of the importance of the aesthetics of this room. I didn't want us to do this all in-house. I wanted to have a professional partner who could not only, they couldn't have just been an interior designer and an interior designer only. We had to have someone that had experience with interior design and also technically with building a room like this. And that's where we started speaking to some of the partners in the UK. I knew Darren and his team fairly well, had always been very impressed with what they were doing. Didn't actually know the background as well back then of where he'd come from and everything. And so when we went down that journey, I put Darren and his team in front of Christian, our founder, and said, look, I think this could be a good fit. We had an interior designer on the project who had a vision of what they wanted the space to look like. I think it's key to say, because some people do look at the color scheme and things like that and go, oh, interesting colors, very bold, very bright. Why have you gone for that? This has now formed part of our corporate visual identity. So Christian, again, because, and yes, okay, in my virtual background where I am here, you can see the speakers, but in real life, you cannot see the speakers. So when you walk into that space, you do not see any technology apart from the LED screens, which are used to show digital artwork. So Christian wanted to have a very strong visual identity, and that was centered around two colors, one a kind of British racing green and the other a purple finish. So the interior design mood board, I suppose, was what it was presented to Darren. Would you say that was fair to call it a mood board?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of
was presented to Darren, and along with technical drawings of where we wanted to be putting the loudspeakers and things like that, because Darren's never worked on a project the same as this, because no one had ever worked on a project like this before. This was the first of its kind, really. So it was kind of working hand in hand to do that. And yeah, that's where Darren came into it.
It was a really interesting project and brief, of course, to when it passed across the desk, and we invested a lot of time early on to really try and understand not just the technology but the vision for the whole solution, so that we could work backwards from what the experience was to be in that room. And we kind of had quite a lot of moving parts to navigate. So I think there's 63 speakers and subwoofers just in the walls, of which there
15 soakers, 1 X8i, 12 X6i, and 32 SB10i subwoofers. Yes, quite a few.
so there's a decent amount of technology there. And we also we felt that it was important as part of the brief, and we discussed with Christian at length the ability for this to be a deployable solution. And so we also wanted to design the bones of the structure to be a modular format, so that you could take this solution, you could scale it up and scale it down, but still the layout and positioning of the speakers, the acoustic treatment remains consistent with the vision for HYRISS. Obviously wanted to ensure it had an excellent finish, because that's where our reputation really comes from, is our ability to deliver and our finish. And then also to I suppose to make sense of that initial mood board, because it's quite a difficult one to inherit. You've got strong green, strong purple, other finishes. How do you make that make sense in a residential setting that is going to be impressive but appeal to people that come through? So we took a lot of time to also understand the branding and the DNA and everything that went through it. So we then pulled this all together. There's elements that we added which I think were really inspired. The vertical screens and setting them almost like digital windows within the wall was an idea and a concept we come up with, because with this immersive environment, I really love the idea that you could also make the visuals immersive and adapt to the room. And I think that's a really neat solution. So it was a really interesting brief, and we put a lot of thought and love into it in the background. To now it almost looks easy. It looks super clean, very elegant, very well considered. But the work is the process in the background and what you don't see in the construction.
That's awesome. I had heard that, as you know, in like a home theater setting, it's like everything's kind of focused towards where the theater seating is, for example. You guys have the ability to adjust that if the seating arrangement changes, or the
Yeah.
furniture is not predicted and so on.
And that's where this came about. Christian, our founder, was renovating a house that he purchased in the south of France. And he had this big space in his basement, which he wasn't quite sure what he wanted to do with it. He wanted to have flexibility for doing different things. And so he wanted to create a sound system which could essentially adapt to any different use case. So he kind of started thinking about different use cases that he might want to do in that space. He's a guy, he loves to do yoga. He loves to listen to music. He likes to watch movies. He likes to watch TV box sets. Likes to have musical performances in there. He might want to have a DJ turn up. And he had all of these things, and he thought, well, actually, I need to be in a different orientation within the space every time I do it. And within the world of, listening, we have formats, stereo, and we have immersive. Now, those formats are usually fixed. So if you were to have the world's best stereo system, if you ask ChatGPT to design a room for the best stereo solution, probably wouldn't do a great job of it. But let's just imagine what it's probably going to do is put two big pairs of floor standing speakers with a single armchair right in front of it facing those speakers. That's great. But then what if I want to face the other way? Do I need to either move those speakers, or do I need to buy an additional pair of the same speakers and put them next to me in the other view? Same thing when we're talking about movies, right? We've got Dolby Digital 5.1, we've got DTS 5.1, we've got Dolby Atmos 7.1.4 or more, DTS-X, Auro 3D, so on and so forth. And again, they're all focused on either the big black rectangle when it's off or the big white rectangle when it's off on one wall. And the speakers are, and again, if we ask ChatGPT to draw us a theatre room with where speakers should be, hopefully it's going to use CD as RP22 documentation to do that, but it's probably not, is you're going to have 3 speakers across the front, surround channels, rear channels, and height channels. But you're facing one way. What if I want to listen to Atmos music, but be facing any other orientation? Because how I'm using that room is different. Then if I want to have the ability to be able to play live music in that room, whether that be from, a piano, just a raw piano, or a DJ with a set of decks in that space. If I ask ChatGPT to draw that, it's probably going to draw some plastic PA speakers on sticks, and it's not going to look very nice, because that's what the world thinks that, a system like that would look like for a home. So that's where we started thinking, well, can our ELISA technology that we use for live events, can that processor that delivers that, can that be used in a different application? And what we've ended up resulting with is a solution which is HYRISS, which has 2 key technologies to it. One of these technologies is called Anima. So Anima allows us to take any signal, whether it be mono, stereo, or Atmos, DTS, whatever it may be, and we can take that and we can move it to any orientation in a full 360 degrees. Because when you design a HYRISS, the idea and the principle behind it is that you have speakers in a grid formation all around you. Now, obviously, and part of what we wanted to show in Highgate and Darren's idea of having the digital windows is that architecture is always going to play a key part in that, and design is always going to take a key part in that. So there will always be compromises, like where we should have speakers, ideally in our space in London, there's actually 2 doors that go into the space, and they're right in the places where it would have been ideal to have speakers, but we've managed to move them off center, make compromises with it to make a still incredible experience. So Anima allows us to do that. It allows us to move, as I say, mono, stereo, or immersive to any orientation of the space. What it can also do is it has a feature where it uses AI and machine learning to listen to the source that's coming into it. And this really only works with mono or stereo. Is it listens and it detects to hear drums, vocals, bass, and others. And it will then basically create an immersive mix for the space, but separating all of those elements to make it feel as if the artist in front of you. So it's not like a traditional Dolby up mix that you might get on a, traditional AV processor, where it just kind of adds a bit of reverb and a bit of delay to things to make it feel as if it's around you. This will actually place the physical instruments and vocals where they should be, as if they were around you. And this is really, really clever to when it gets to things for like wellness. So a lot of tracks that are used in like kind of wellness and therapy and things like that are just produced in stereo because that's what the world's used to. So it's not very immersive. So if I want this space to feel like I'm in a rainforest, I can now just choose any rainforest sound from Spotify, Tidal, Qboz, Deezer, whatever, turn on Anima, and it will spatialize that and literally make it feel as if it is all around you. So incredibly powerful in that sense. Very clever technology, which I believe is completely unique within this industry. The other feature it has as well is something called ambience. Now, ambience, again, is on the Elisa processor. We use ambience in performing arts centers and other venues. What we have is a grid of microphones across the ceilings, and then we can adapt the acoustics of the space live on the fly. So the room inherently is a very dry space because for listening to music, watching movies, you want a dry space. And Darren's team did a great job at making sure that room, despite having hard wooden floors, windows, reflective surfaces from digital screens, there's 7 65-inch Samsung commercial displays in there and one 98-inch commercial display as well. They're all reflective surfaces. Plus, we have a marble coffee table and 2 marble dining tables, and there's reflective surfaces everywhere. But you walk in and it can be dry. If you play an instrument in that space, it's not going to sound as it should. Because if you're playing an instrument in a space, you want it to feel lively. You walk into a concert hall or a performing arts center, and the acoustics have all been designed to naturally amplify what's on the stage. And so we have the ability through what we call signatures to recall different presets, whether that be theater, concert hall, cathedral, cave, whatever it may be. And we can adaptively change those acoustics of those spaces. So it's really about that kind of adaptivity of one space. You know, people spend a lot of money on dedicated theater rooms, and those rooms are fixed to being that use and that use only. You know, yes, okay, you can watch a movie in there one night, and then the next night you can watch a concert, and then the next night you can play on your games consoles. But if you wanted to play an instrument in there, it's not the right space for it, right? If you wanted to do yoga in there, it's not the right space for it. If you wanted to have a DJ play in there, not the right space for it. So the concept of HYRISS is having a space, and we're seeing this trend. And actually, just this afternoon, I was reading a CE Pro article, which, you know, I think from their research they'd seen that there's a decline in theaters and there's an increase in the amount of media rooms. HYRISS is a media room on steroids, right? This can be any room within a house. It doesn't need to be dedicated to one thing. This could be a living space, it could be a dining space, it could be a gallery, anything. But the key is that it can do all of those individual things incredibly well, and without compromise. The key thing to it is it's a lot of technology, right? Darren said there's 60 loudspeakers in that space. The key is in high-end residential, in high-end hospitality, retail, no one wants to see speakers, no one wants to see subwoofers. So, and that's why I thought it was a good idea to get Darren on this call, is because it's really key for people to understand the level of integration that has to be thought about at those early stages. When people come to us with a project which is designed already and they say, can we make this a HYRISS? It's hard. It's not really hard, but it's hard because the architect, the designer have already got exactly in their mind where they want certain things to go. We did a project in London recently with this technology in it, and I had to have an argument with an interior designer telling them that they could not put a loudspeaker behind a refrigerator. But, you know, we won the battle. It's a really, really like important, and we as a manufacturer support this. You know, we will work with the integrator, with the architect, with the interior designer to make sure that the result ends up being perfect. And having a company on board like Cinema Luxe who were able to actually realize that for us, that was really crucial for our space.
it does require that level of detail and coordination, just because it's it's a big system, you know, with the way that it's designed in terms of almost having that grid of loudspeakers. It requires thought and structure, but it's also, you know, the SPL level on it is incredibly high, and it needs real consideration in terms of the materials and the structure and what's used around it for that system to shine and be at its best. Um, but equally, I find because it is quite a symmetrical grid type system, it's friendlier than you'd think it would be working into spaces because it already has a balance to it. I mean, I've got some material that I can share, but Nick's background is probably as good as any. It's purposely designed so that we've only got three different size modules. You can see that the speaker module is 540 millimeters wide, and then the screen modules was a particular width, and the LED lighting modules were the same. So it actually means that when you design the technology and the interior in harmony from the ground up, it actually presents you a very balanced feeling interior as well. And I mean, Nick, I'm sure will have many examples of this when you started to see the HYRISS projects, but generally the right caliber of designer embrace the technology and see it as a challenge, because everyone's aim is the same thing, and that is um, the right space for the client. And it's such a unique system because of how adaptable it is, um, that I actually find that a high-risk system is usually easier to win over architects and interior designers because of that adaptability, maybe than a fixed use room.
Yeah.
And that's quite interesting, because when we was first learnt about high risk and first started looking at it, I loved the concept, but our initial thought is, where does this fit in the market and in people's homes? So it's really refreshing. We've seen a couple of high-risk projects from mutual CI integrators over the last few weeks, and it's really good to see it gaining traction, and gaining traction to be delivered properly at scale like it is at Highgate. So, um, but it is critically important to work on the detail early so that it's a joined up thinking between audio and construction.
You actually said a couple of things that kind of sparked a thought in my head. It's like the adaptability of it, and not being regulated to where this is just a theater. So I guess I can see why you built out the HYRISS room as not just a movie theater. You built it up to show what ultimately is possible. So you've gone from this scope of it's just a theater up to it can be almost anything you want it to be. And it also shows so that seems like it's a really good selling point for
it was interesting. It was really interesting, right? But ever since I joined L-Acoustics, I had always said that we should have a dedicated cinema space within the room, and I was really pushing for it. But actually, Christian, our founder, he does always tend to know best. He was like, no, we need to show something better than that. And as Darren is sharing now, this is what we ended up with. And I will tell you now, when you're watching a movie within this space, it outperforms most home theaters that I've experienced, but it can adapt to being so many more different spaces.
That's awesome. I would imagine that would attract the hell out of interior designers and architects.
It's been really interesting actually seeing, you know, the showroom. I'd been using the showroom a lot prior to us making these changes. And since the changes have been done, managing the diary there is impossible, because we are so busy, and more so than ever before, with integrators bringing their end users, their architecture and their interior design contacts. And people are just embracing it so much. We're getting consultants through the door. We're getting so many different types of stakeholders in a project to come and experience it, because it is something which is truly unique and people can see the value in it. Whereas I think, and we had someone come and visit us recently, which I filmed a video for YouTube with them. And, you know, that guy, Ben from SSUM, you know, he's been to every showroom across the UK, experienced the best cinema rooms that exist, you know, from the various different manufacturers and distributors. And he said, every time I go to one, I kind of know exactly what I'm going to get, you know, and it's very, very difficult to discern the difference of certain loudspeakers. Where he said, what you're doing here is it's not about loudspeakers, it's about experience and creating an experience which is truly unique. And it just so happens that if you choose to go for that experience, you're buying L-Acoustics loudspeakers.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, the first time I saw that room, I'm like, oh my God, I want to go in there.
Yeah, so I'm quite forceful with people as well. I actually managed to convince Todd Anderson to change his flights going back from Barcelona after ISE. Because I was like, he was like, man, I'd love to experience it. I was like, okay, what can I do to make you experience it? He was like, well, I've got an hour layover in Heathrow. Do you reckon I was like, nope, let's change that flight and let's get you in. And yeah, he did. And he wrote an article recently, and I couldn't be more thankful because he just captured it all so perfectly in written format. And, you know, I'm sure many people know Todd's got a great YouTube channel, and he came, you know, with cameras and everything ready to go. And I said, well, just experience it first before we start rolling. And we finished it, and he just said, I'm never going to be able to capture what this space is on video. Never, ever. I will be able to write far more eloquently what I experienced than I would be able to capture in video. And that's been a really big struggle as well. You know, is I approached actually an interior designer this morning through LinkedIn, who I heard on a podcast recently, who was talking about the importance of sound. And literally their narrative was exactly the same as our narrative for it. I was like, we've got to be able to speak and we've got to be able to connect. And trying to write that kind of cold email to someone being like, yeah, can you, you know, and they're based in London, right? So it's not hard for them to get to it. It's like, how do you explain it in words? You can't. And that's why we're so keen to do things like this. And you know, even on this, it doesn't do it any justice.
It's even the sense of scale, and it's the amount of headroom on the system as well. I mean, it feels to me like you're in the front row of a dance tent at a festival in there, but in a residential environment. So, you know, it's when an 808 kick drum physically hits you in the chest. You get that from this room, and I've never experienced that in a residential environment before. And you know, we're very lucky in terms of we work on many very, very good projects with high level audio, but it's a difficult thing to quantify unless you've experienced it. So yeah, I'd absolutely book some flights if I was you.
Yeah, well, we've got some Canadian integrators who have flown over, coming in tomorrow for a demo. So yeah, it's great to start seeing commitment from people to do it. You know, it's difficult. We understand it has a cost associated to it and all of it, all the rest of it. But we know that people vacation in Europe. We hear American accents, so that means if anyone's vacationing, it's just a quick question of saying to the rest of the family, hey, do you mind if I slip away for a couple of hours? I've just got something I've got to go and pick you up as a present, and then make sure you actually come back with a present. But we do give away very nice goodie bags to people that come as well. So yeah, we'll have you covered for that.
So what are your plans as far as expanding into the US and building out a showroom here, or an experience center rather would be a better.
So we are very hopeful to be able to show some of the technologies of HYRISS at CEDIA Expo this year. Very hopeful. As I said earlier, we are in the thick of the planning stages. We've designed the booth. We're waiting for our booth builder to come back to us. Obviously, I mentioned the importance of the acoustics of the space to start with. So whether we will be able to show all functionality of HYRISS within that space will be unsure until we're actually there on site on Labor Day, the day before, 2 days before the show opens, because there's nothing like doing these things last minute.
Right.
But hopefully we'll be able to do that. We are currently having fit out done of our North American new centralized office. So right now, our office in the United States is in Westlake Village, down the road from you, Jeff, where we have the predecessor to HYRISS there. So that has our ocean system installed in it right now. That office has been our office for a number of years. Great showroom, great space, but we wanted to be closer to the music community. And an offer came up to be in proper downtown Nashville. So we're opening up a new office in Nashville, and there is a plan to have a HYRISS there as well. It won't be quite as big as what we've got in London, but we are in the plans of doing that at the moment. And we hope, and as I said before this call, I was telling people in Barcelona at ISE 2024 that it was going to be opening in that March, but the following month. It took us a further 6 months until we did open it. No fault of Darren's, I must add. Yeah, so Nashville is penned for Q4 of this year. All I'll say is watch this space, keep in touch with us. My colleague Kevin Learman, who is our regional sales manager for the home and yacht verticals in the US, I'm sure will be shouting from the rooftops as soon as it's available about this. He would have been on this call as well, but he's currently in France, having just done a factory tour with some of his integrators. So yeah, that's why he couldn't be here today. But yeah, I know he's chomping at the bit to get HYRISS over in the US, and he's not even experienced it in the UK yet. So but I think he knows it'll be good. He'll be there tomorrow, and I can't wait to show it to him.
That's awesome. Is there anything we haven't touched upon that designers and integrators might find helpful, useful, or otherwise intriguing?
I think really the important thing is it's very difficult in this format to kind of go through and explain what it is in its entirety.
Right.
We'd obviously welcome to do further calls, one-on-one sessions with people. Obviously, if anyone have got any plans or any projects where they think, oh, this sounds interesting, my client might be interested in it, then by all means feel free to reach out to me or any of the team. If the guys on the call know Kevin themselves, and obviously reach out to him, and would be happy to help and organize a discovery session. We're quite strict with HYRISS in the way that we do it, because we have a calculator where someone can literally give us the room dimensions, even in feet and inches, and we can type that in and it will give a rough ballpark figure. But we do say to people, really, before we start putting pen to paper and doing design work, we really, really recommend that we have a meeting at the bare minimum with the end user's team. May not be able to get to the end user themselves. We do a lot through client representatives. But more importantly, the architecture and interior design team, so that they can understand what we're trying to do. Because if you send an architect and interior designer a speaker layout which has 60 speakers in it, they're going to kick you out of the meeting. When they understand what it is and how it will work, if they can get to experience it, even better, they will embrace it, as Darren said earlier. And we have had, in the UK, we had an architect recently who was literally telling their client, you have to have this. This is crazy if you don't have it. It is very, very rare with technology that you get people saying that. So I think it is that transformative. Christian, a couple of years ago when we were working on this, sat me down once and said, over 100 years ago, people didn't realize they needed a room for their bodies. Then someone came along and designed a bathroom. Now everyone has a bathroom. Said right now, people don't realize they need a temple for the ears. Watch this space. People will be having HYRISS, hopefully in the same way that people have bathrooms in their plans in 100 years' time. Who knows?
Hopefully,
I'll add to what Nick said as well, in terms of we are also very happy to assist anyone looking at a HYRISS solution in terms of interior integration and construction. Even on a non-commercial level. If you're a friend of L-Acoustics, you're a friend of us. So in terms of if there's a project and there's some general questions on the construction or the interior design or best practices, I'd be very happy to offer those services out free of charge, just as a consultation, to help more people deploy HYRISS, whether we're involved in the project or not. And to HTA members and associates, I'd be very happy to do that. And equally, for the right projects, we do work internationally, so there is opportunity to deliver it turnkey stateside as well. So, but you know, without obligation, commitment, I'm very happy to offer our experience and thoughts if it helps the CI community in the States. Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate everyone attending.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, guys. Have a great evening.
Same to you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.